Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Let's Talk Assassin's Creed, the only more podcast for all things Assassin's Creed.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 156. I think it is. I kind of lost count because we've been away a while. I think it's 156 of Let's Talk Assassin's Creed. We've been away for 6 weeks, longer. There's been stuff happening in the background. Anyway, we're back. What are we talking about, Declan?
The Layla Hassan Trilogy.
Oh, yes, that was it. 3 games, 7 DLCs, some Lost Tales of Greece,
Jesus.
and many, many game modes. And it's over. So, yeah, we're going to look back at that trilogy and the historical stories and the characters and the modern day story and, have a chat about what we think about it. What did we like? What did we not like? But first, we should introduce our guests. Declan, who have we got with us?
We have Ammit, who's back again.
Yeah. Hi. Hello. Yes, I am back with a doctorate now.
Dr Ammit.
Who?
Exactly.
And we have Jodie.
Hi.
Who's a new guest. So welcome aboard. Good to have new people on board at last.
Welcome to the show, Jodie. Good to have a new person join as well. Now, I'm going to be honest here. I can't remember if I told you this, Declan, but I've been thinking for a while, especially as we approach the end of Valhalla's stuff, that we should probably do some kind of look back. And I can't remember in which conversation it was, Jodie, but you kind of caused this. You don't know it yet.
Did I? Okay.
You kind of caused this because I forget where we were discussing it, whether it was on Twitter or on one of our many Discord channels, but I think you said something like Valhalla has one of the best narratives you've played.
That was Twitter. Yep.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah.
It was
and
a bit controversial.
No. Well, I mean, hey, look, it's totally valid, right? And it sort of pinged in my head, and I thought, right, we need to do this, and we definitely need Jodie because that's an opinion I want to listen to. So yeah, this is all your fault, is what I'm saying.
Cool.
So yeah,
I wear that with pride.
I want to start then. So with you, because Ammit, we've spoken to you many times, and I think it was Origins was the first game you picked up on a friend's laptop or Xbox or something.
Yes, on a PlayStation. Yes.
Right.
My neighbors in the grad students dorm where I was living in Vancouver. She had a PlayStation. She had Origins, and so I would be her guest. I would explain the things to her, and she would play.
Oh, I see. So it was like having a live historical consultant.
Yes, exactly.
Played Bayek Kanaya's story. Okay.
Yes, a historical commentary. Yeah, and simping too. So incredible, fantastic.
Yeah.
And for me, it was I played Odyssey as my first game in the series, and it was completely on a whim when a friend at work said, "Hey, you've got a new PC. I'm playing this game. You like history. Go give it a try." And it happened to be Odyssey. And I'd heard of Assassin's Creed, but I'd never played a game. And yeah, the rest is history. So we're kind of new to this, and we hadn't experienced all of the older games and their style. So I'm curious to hear from Declan and Jodie when Origins was previewed and then when it was released. What was that change of style like? Was it a good change? Was it needed? What do you think, Declan?
I'm going to be controversial and say it was and it wasn't needed. Playing Syndicate, I think Syndicate has one of the best combat in the game, hands down, because they decided to do something new, and instead of focusing on swords and daggers, it was proper fists, and that was fun to beat people up in London. But when Origins came out and they improved on everything that Syndicate did, and they made Assassin's Creed feel more fun, I feel like they regretted they forgot that hand-to-hand combat needs to be more fun. Instead, they've just gone back to the old ways of sword and shield and daggers, and that kind of made combat take a step back, in my opinion. So it was good to come back and have this big open world with a really good story, but I just think combat really took a step back in that department when it should have took a step forward.
The combat is certainly quite simple, isn't it? In Origins. What did you think, Jodie? Was it a needed change? Was it just one of those things that tends to gradually change anyway as franchises progress?
I don't know I don't know how I feel about the idea of it being needed or not. Like, I think for me, it's like, because I've been playing Assassin's Creed since Brotherhood was my first one, and it's sort of, they've always been making little changes here and there. Like Unity was a huge change for the series, and then Syndicate was sort of its own, sort of similar to Unity's style in a lot of ways. And I just think that Origins was like a step of them just like trying something new, and I actually really appreciate that. I don't know if I think it's needed or not, because I feel like what's more valuable is that they were willing to sort of go somewhere different, and I really like that. I think that, like Declan was saying about the combat being a lot more generic, that's kind of true. I agree with that to a point, but I still I respect that they were willing to sort of give some new things a try with Origins, because the series was just kind of, it was definitely struggling, I think, in the minds of players beforehand, because Unity burned a lot of people on launch.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just think that I understand why they sort of decided to go somewhere new for Origins. And personally, I think it turned out excellently. And I know some people didn't like it, and I know some people don't really like the I know some people don't really like the way that like the games since then have sort of been more Origins like than they have been Unity like. But being around the community at the time, while people weren't super thrilled on Origins from the start, people were also at the time of Unity's launch quite down on Unity as well. So it's kind of like the Assassin's Creed community has always been very hard to please.
Now that is the understatement of the episode.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't really know whether it was needed or not, but I am glad that they did it, because I think it added, it opened the world like so much more. Up until that point, pretty much every Assassin's Creed game had gone forward in time. From Assassin's Creed 1 up to Syndicate, it was getting more and more modern. And sort of Origins, they went further back than anyone before it. And yeah, I think that was a good sort of point for them to rework some of the game's mechanics in the way they did.
There is a YouTube channel. I'm sure we can look it up afterwards, and maybe some of you will know the name. I don't know how they do it, but they seem to get access to sort of internal videos of test versions, and there is a video on YouTube of, I guess it's an early development build of Origins, but I think it's Arno, so it's obviously where they've started to build on top of the original content made for Unity. And it's Arno's character, and you can see a lot of his animations, but it's running across a desert and, you know, walking through a sort of a more desert style city and so on. And it is funny to see the early building blocks or the early testing, where it's this kind of block by block layout of a world, but then there's actually Arno's character, you know, running through it. But it is funny that what you've said there, and I've heard this from other people as well, that Unity was so bad on release that actually JV makes this point in several of his Assassin's Creed reviews, that Unity kind of tanked the franchise, which is weird because playing it years later, I mean, yes, there are still absolutely bugs, but they never sort of blocked my enjoyment of the game. But it is interesting that the reception was so poor that maybe they were already planning significant changes in the structure of the games and the storytelling. But it is funny to think that the game was so bad they decided to tear everything up and do something different.
I think they definitely, like, people recognized that there was a lot of good stuff under the surface in Unity, and I mean, not everyone's experience was terrible. I bought the game on launch day. I never had any issues. my criticisms of Unity are like of the game itself, not of all of the technical stuff. But definitely the technical stuff, I think more importantly than whether it was that bad or not, is it became a meme. Yes. And I think when it became a meme, that's what really hurt the series. Was that image of Arno and Elise with no faces.
Yes.
That's the one that sort of made people, I guess, view Assassin's Creed with a bit more derision than they had before. And I think, I mean, obviously the community really likes Unity nowadays.
It's pretty much completed its redemption arc, hasn't it?
I think, Syndicate will get there soon, I'm sure.
Exactly.
I'm hoping.
And it's funny that, I mean, I live in a bit of a bubble because I spend a fair bit of time on the Odyssey subreddit. So I live in a bit of an Odyssey bubble, but it's funny to see people playing Valhalla. And I guess we'll get to this point in a minute and come back and say, this is a step back from Odyssey. And Odyssey seems to also be going a little bit through its redemption arc as well. It's got a couple more years. We need at least one more game to be released before it completes its redemption arc. But it is funny to see those cyclical sort of behaviors. But like you say, Syndicate, that definitely needs its redemption arc. I think Syndicate's great. I really do. I enjoyed it a lot. Yeah. And I do miss that city style of the crowds, of the detailed world, and the newer games don't create that, which is kind of a shame. But I want to go to you, Ammit. What did you think, sort of picking up Origins for the first time and exploring this big open world of ancient Egypt?
I have to say, I gotta start from the ending, because you said that the newer games don't have the big city environment. That is something that you miss, but that is a choice, because in the new games we visit two of the biggest metropolis of the ancient world. We visit Alexandria, which was a megalopolis at the time, and Rome. So we could have had, big detailed cities. It was just a choice not to have them, right? Because Alexandria, as we see it in Origins, is shrunk. Like, you could set a whole ass game in Alexandria and there would be enough material to go on for like 30, 40 hours. So it is a choice, because the ancient world needs to be, I don't know, empty, smaller, but whatever. So that is the archaeological bone that I have to pick. And then, so picking up Origins and then going back. So I picked up Origins, then I played... No, actually, I saw my friend play Origins. Then I played the Ezio Trilogy. Then I finally bought Origins and played that. And then I played Odyssey. And then I played something else in between. And then I played Valhalla. So my experience was all over the place.
Me too. Yep.
But I love the new combat system. And I cannot play the old games without remapping the buttons, because it's excruciating. It's too clunky for me, for the kind of player that I am, and it also gives me terrible issues with my carpal tunnel to have to mash like the hit button with my thumb. So I need to remap everything to put it on triggers. And I also think that what they did with Origins with the shields was fantastic. And I was so disappointed that the one character that should have a shield, because she's fucking Spartan, does not use her shield. I mean, what the fuck? What the fuck, right?
That is a complaint that always. Why doesn't Cassandra have a shield?
I understand, like we can kind of explain. It's like, well, but she has renounce. I don't give a shit. Everyone uses a shield in ancient Greece. Everyone has it. You don't need to be Spartan to have a shield. And there are some beautiful, beautiful shields that they could have put into the games and, let Cassandra use them. No, none of that. So I was angry. But the clunky commands are the reason why I never played the first Assassin's Creed, because I cannot get used to that and I cannot remap it. So I was like, I'm never going to play this. Like, if they ever remaster it and give me like the new combat and moving system, then maybe I can. Yeah. But like, I really cannot get used to that. It's unnecessarily clunky for me. And I do like, the power things. And I don't think that if a system is less complex, it's necessarily less enjoyable. I think that the flourishes in fighting and everything else are better than having like Ezio doing counterattack hits and and then chain all of that. Like, I'd rather go and bash people's skulls or assassinate more people than just have to chain like 10 counters in like to get an achievement. But I'm also probably a different type of player, and I play with a controller. I don't know if on a different, like on a keyboard and mouse it feels different. So my opinion is biased because I use a controller.
I am currently replaying AC2 on the Switch. Now, I have, apart from briefly playing Unity on the PS5 a couple of years ago, I'm a keyboard and mouse player for Assassin's Creed. And I mean, my issues with the early games combat are well documented. Go and listen to our AC2 Revisited episode to hear all about that. Yeah, it's so different, and I'd never played a game like it. Of course I can do it now, but my timing is terrible. I sit there in the parry pose with Ezio, and you're supposed to press, well, is it Y or is it whatever? It depends on the controller, I guess, to do a counter kill, and my timing still sucks. That's just me. I'm just not fast enough or precise enough to get the timing right. It's easier in Brotherhood, and in Brotherhood I'm fine. I can counter kill everyone, but I think the timing is so precise or so narrow in AC2. I struggle. That's a me problem. It's fine. It definitely gets easier as you go on, but I don't think it's particularly easy with keyboard and mouse. But again, it's probably just lack of skill, lack of time practicing. Over to you, Declan.
I lost my voice then. I just want to say on the point of combat, I think one of the things that these games did better with Origins onwards is, again, controversial, but they give you a more realistic approach to an assassin. Like, my biggest pet peeve with Assassin's Creed up till Unity was an assassin would not stand in a crowd of 20 people waiting for people to attack them. That's not an assassin. Assassin wouldn't just stand there like a lemon to do a counter kill. They would attack, and you see it you read it in the books, you see it in the movie. Assassins are skilled hand-to-hand combat fighters. And then having these open world games which give us that skilled hand-to-hand combat, in my opinion, gives you a more realistic approach to how an assassin is. They're not going to stand like a lemon with 20 guards and just counter kill. No, they're going to attack, dodge, and probably kick ass, which is something that I'm glad Origins did for the combat the most, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think that in Origins, like the meta explanation that I gave for Bayek being so skilled is that he is a trained soldier, right? He's a Magi, so he's part of basically a SWAT squad. And he knows how to use all the different types of weapons and everything else. And in the case of Cassandra, she has demigod blood, so she can use that. So yeah, I didn't find it as limiting as others did. And I think it does make sense that like you would kill, like jump into the action and kill more people if you have the abilities, if you can. I also did like that with Bayek, I could be absolutely stealthy, because that's also something that you would do, in the desert setting. Like if he's talking about moving around like a predator and stalking his prey and everything else, which is something that predators in the desert do, then that's also the metagaming game, like role play aspect of that made me really like it. I really like Origins for like in most of its aspects.
I think that like Bayek being stealthy is also like really consistent with his quest. Like he's tracking down these like shadowy figures that are infiltrating Egyptian politics. I mean, obviously at the start of the game he doesn't know the extent to which that's a problem, but like I can understand like he learns all of his stealth skills that way. He's got a quest, he's got people to kill, he's got a list to check off, so it makes sense that he has that kind of stuff.
Is he making a list and checking it twice?
He's checking it twice. Yeah.
Do we think he has? Do we think he has a spreadsheet? Does he have a spreadsheet? Do we think like an ancient spreadsheet?
A modern assassin like I don't know, Sean. He definitely has a spreadsheet.
Oh, Sean has so many spreadsheets. Oh my god.
Listen, ancient Egyptians were fabulous bureaucrats. They had the ancient version of spreadsheets, so I would be very surprised.
I mean, if you want to talk about the Rind mathematical papyrus, Amit, let's switch to that. Let's do it.
I suck at math, but yes, I mean we have a lot of lists and really well kept records and everything else. So I stand by my headcanon that Bayek actually has a spreadsheet.
Love it. Would you think he would have passed? Didn't there used to be exams for the bureaucracy that you would have to study for and pass? I think.
Oh yeah.
Would Bayek have been an educated man, reading, writing, arithmetic?
Depending on social status, right? If he was in the army, if he was an officer, then yes, he would have been educated. Because a lot of officers also had the title of scribe, so they knew how to write, they knew how to read, and they knew how to do math. So probably.
All right. Yeah,
I mean,
he had a list.
yeah.
Yep.
He solved all of those papyruses.
Yeah.
Oh my God, he did. I love it.
Yeah, and he can read in Old Egyptian, which is not the same as Ptolemaic Egyptian. So clearly, he's been educated.
Yeah, that's true. He can read the walls of the tombs as well.
Go on, say the line. Say the line.
Ancient writing from the Old Kingdom.
From the Old Kingdom.
They would not have called it Old Kingdom. God damn it.
Is that a neologism? Is it the Old Kingdom?
Yeah, it is. It is. They would not have called it the Old Kingdom. They were like, the old what? The what?
I'm so glad you're here to clarify these points. All right, thank you. I want to talk about the modern day, everyone's favorite Assassin's Creed topic, because we've had many different versions of the modern day, and so what did we have? Sort of after Desmond, we had first-person iPad guy. What was the one in Rogue? What was he called?
That was first-person iPad guy. A different first-person iPad.
That was different first-person. But doesn't he have a name? Like, don't people call him Noob or something? I forget. I'm not an expert on Rogue.
I'm pretty sure in Black Flag, you're just like a new employee, and then Rogue. I don't know. I think you're like a
numbskull or something.
Yeah, something like that. Something Otto Berg just like insults you, or Alec DaCosta just insults you the whole game.
Yes, and then we had Bishop, like remote voice. It's all a virtual thing inside a virtual thing. You know, you're the initiate. That's it, isn't it? And then we're back. We're back with a third-person playable modern-day protagonist. But I don't know. Layla doesn't really have a great story arc, does she? Until I feel like, now, you know, I like Odyssey, but Odyssey didn't really do much with her character, and
no, they didn't.
There were some pretty awful modern day stuff, and I feel like one of the strengths of Valhalla was they had to kind of look at what they'd started in Origins, look at what had happened in Odyssey, and try and tie it together. I think they did it pretty well, but I can't believe that was ever mapped out as a trilogy, because it's pretty ropey. Yeah. We got hands up everywhere. Ammit, go on.
So I was thinking about this before when I was brushing my teeth, because I get good ideas while I brush my teeth. And I was thinking that one thing that I really liked, like in the Ezio trilogy, and I would have loved to see in the new trilogy, is modern day stuff in an urban setting, not just in Izu temples or like in Faxshire, Massachusetts, but like in a city.
Please.
Right?
Oh my God,
right?
please.
Give us modern Athens, right? Give us, modern Egypt. Give us Cairo. I mean, or any place in Egypt, honestly. Like, give us modern day, I don't know, Oslo or something. Like, not just the Izu places or places that are ruined, right? That's what, like, I really liked the segment in Monteriggioni in Brotherhood when you have to go around and find like the fuse boxes, and like the whole New York sequence. I was like, yes, this is my hometown. Well, my second hometown. So it's like, I miss that. I would have really liked to see that. Also because it's really interesting to see the old parts, like the ancient stuff, and in modern day, right? Like in the Colosseum. So I would have liked to see more of that.
Yeah, for sure. Have you played Assassin's Creed 3?
Me?
Yeah.
No. I tried. I really did not give a shit about anything. So I stopped playing it. Sorry. And I live in Boston, but I was like, I really don't give a shit about any of this and any of these people. So goodbye.
It has 3 missions set in the modern day. I think one is in, what's the skyscraper one? Where's that? Is that
I think
New
that
York?
might be New York.
And then there's Brazil,
Yes.
I believe, where so the New York one is a parkour mission. You're climbing a skyscraper as Desmond. The Brazil one is a social stealth mission where you're sneaking through a wrestling match.
Yes, that's right.
And then the third one is back in Rome in Abstergo's headquarters, and you fight your way through it as Desmond. It's the coolest modern day content the series has ever seen. And
oh yeah, I was that's what like the New York one is the one that I was talking about when I was saying like the Ezio trilogy, but actually it's that one. No, that's a really cool one. But I'm sorry, they had like old Boston and they didn't use modern day Boston. That's a waste.
It is, because it's a beautiful city, isn't it? Even the parts that are older in the city, it would be very atmospheric.
They still the same. Still the same breweries, still the same pubs.
Go on, Declan, mate.
I really think it's just a night where I'm going to get myself in trouble.
Why?
I kind of love Layla Hassan's Modern Day. It's
me too.
One of my favourites. I think, controversially, I prefer what she did for the franchise over what Desmond did for the franchise.
Blasphemy.
Mainly because, don't get me wrong, Desmond was great. Introducing us to Abstergo, saving the world in 2012. All that was great. But Layla Hassan did something that the franchise needed, and that was create an animus that does not need a bloodline match. She can play Bayek and Aya without needing a bloodline match. She can play Cassandra without a bloodline match. That idea for the franchise is one of the most groundbreaking, because up until then, all we know from the Animus is you need a bloodline match. That's what Desmond was telling us with Ancestors. Then Abstergo was making video games out of them, so they're not going to be proper synced memories. And then Layla's coming in and saying, actually, I can now do fully synced memories with any ancestor, even if I'm not related. And that was cool. And then, I know everyone gets bitchy about her mood swings at the end of Odyssey, but when you read her wiki, Layla as a kid was very prone to being angry outbursts. So the idea of the staff of Hermes connecting to that anger that Layla had growing up made real sense for her character. It wasn't just a goofy thing. It was embedded in her character. She was an angry person at times, so it worked, in my opinion. Jodie?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. I think that, and this is a real controversial one, I think Desmond was boring. I think, he's cool, and I think after his death in Assassin's Creed 4, when they gave him some audio logs, and in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, when they gave him some audio logs, they fleshed out his character a lot more, and I liked Desmond now. But when when his story was still being written, I thought it was pretty generic. And I thought he was a pretty boring kind of protagonist. And I think Layla's story kind of struggled because they didn't plan it out ahead of time. And I know this for a fact because there was one time, I can't remember which developer it was. I think it was Jean Gaydon, who at the time was the leader of the entire brand.
Okay.
He did a Q&A session, and us on the subreddit, we were asking people to sort of field some questions so that someone who was there could ask them. And someone asked on my behalf, is the modern day story planned out ahead of time? And he said something along the lines of that they allow each team to move the modern day story wherever they choose to, in a way that fits their game. So the Layla story was not planned.
Right.
The Layla story was not planned. But what I did want to mention is that, just on something Declan said before, that Layla's Animus was not the first one to move away from direct relative genetic memories. There's a set of audio logs in Syndicate, actually, about I think they're called the Subject Zero logs, about Eileen Bach, who was trying to do exactly this through a project in Abstergo called the Surrogate Initiative, which was eventually she was effectively lobotomized by an Animus session gone wrong, and then Vidic stole all of her work. And that's why things like Assassin's Creed 4 and Rogue and Unity and Syndicate can all happen. None of them we're not playing anyone that we're related to in any of those games. And so I think Layla's Animus was something that's... They've kept it really unclear about what Layla's Animus particularly does. But it was the idea of playing someone that you're not related to. That's something they sort of tried to step into that, starting with Black Flag, because Desmond died, but they still had a character who was a Kenway. And they didn't have anyone who was related to the Kenways to bring in as the protagonist. But yeah. But
It's
anyway,
a nice little storytelling fix that lets them be more free, isn't it?
Yeah.
For future games and future historical periods. Because I suppose if you tie your hands by saying that we must always have the modern day character related to the historical period we want to have some fun in, then perhaps you start to stretch credibility. That there's
it was
all these...
useful. It was useful when it was Desmond's story.
Yes.
But then when it wasn't Desmond's story anymore, it would have been too much of a limitation.
Yeah, and then at the end of the final chapter, we have Basim in the Animus going, I'm just going to fast forward all these memories and find specific memories with specific emotional levels, and let's look at those, which was
they were doing that in
quite
AC1 as well. They were doing that in AC1.
Oh, yes, of course.
If you remember, every time you like fast travel back to Masyaf, the Animus says that it's fast forwarding the memory. And there's like... you have to work up to certain emotional moments. That's something in Brotherhood as well, with the Christina missions. You have to complete sync objectives to unlock them. So they've actually, that's a nice little thing, the idea that you can just sort of fast forward through the memories. Or go back to them.
Yeah. That would make the games a lot shorter, wouldn't it, if you could just fast forward to the epic climax. Anyway.
Yeah, that's the entire point of AC1, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what they wanted to do at the start.
Yeah. Go on, Ammit. You wanted to say something.
Oh yeah, no. I now I want to make lewd jokes about Layla getting her endorphins and oxytocin up when she's in the Animus and Bayek is doing stuff with Aya. So yeah, sure, of course. Fast forward, yes. Let's get to the ritual activities. I would be very interested.
You know, there are some Abstergo engineers that just spend their time doing that. You know it.
Oh yeah, and they call it research. Of course. No, I wanted before the simping.
I'm assuming that one of the priorities was the memory replay function being developed.
Oh yeah, VR, right? Yeah. But I wanted to say that
Ammit,
also like
let's
getting.
keep this on topic, right?
I'm on topic. Okay, I'm a serious scholar. I'm a serious woman.
Sure.
No, I wanted to say that moving away from like, we need to have a protagonist that is necessarily related by blood to like the ancient protagonist is also like a good tie-in to the idea that to be part of the creed, you don't need to be someone of, let's just say, a dynasty, but you can choose to get in, right? Which is what they absolutely fucked up in Odyssey, like at the end of it.
They did
with the bloodline bullshit, because the whole thing. But I think that would have been like a nice segue into, look, you have the people in the past and in the present, like in present day, have the choice to join the creed, out their own free will, and it's not like a Skywalker saga situation. But then they fumbled. How do you say they fumbled at the finish line when they just said, oh no, but actually. Everything that matters ever, it's a bloodline. It's like, but it was so nice that we had gone away from that.
When
Come
did
again?
They say that, Ammit? When did they say it was all about a bloodline?
Well, it's not about a bloodline, but it's like in Odyssey with the Cursed DLC, which we will not name here.
God.
Right,
God, yeah,
right.
yeah.
They made it all about it being a bloodline and a
Sequel.
matter of blood. When in the Ezio trilogy, especially in Brotherhood, the thing that I really liked the most is that he was literally picking up like riffraffs on the street and asking them if they wanted to join, and they would. So it's not just you need to have the right. Like it's also like a very like dangerous thing to say. Oh, you can only get in if you have the right blood, right? Like, do we all
Yeah.
see that? How that is problematic?
Absolutely.
So it was a nice segue, but now with Odyssey, they kind of fucked it up and they put a patch on that with Valhalla with the sages, but it's still it's still a mess. I have my own issues with the sages and sociocultural things, but yeah, but it would have been so nice, right, to get away from the bloodline thing, and then they did not.
I think that they have, there's been, because they have been dealing with bloodline stuff since the very beginning. Like they set up at the start, like that in order to use Isu technology without like going insane, if you want to hold an apple of Eden, you got to have a certain amount of Isu DNA in your blood. And they've sort of been running that theme all the way through, particularly through all the Desmond games.
Mm-hmm.
And it did kind of, I didn't like how much Odyssey focused on Cassandra's bloodline being special.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think, I don't think it's ended up being that bad in the end, because as we sort of find out in Valhalla, or at the end of Odyssey even, that Cassandra's whole, like, her amazing bloodline and everything, ultimately, she was just manipulated by Alethea like everyone else. You know, and it's like, Odyssey had some weird stuff to say about the importance of bloodline and hereditary power. But I think Valhalla sort of moved it away a little bit. I don't know. It's weird because it's like the central philosophical point of Assassin's Creed is this idea that nothing is true, that, you know, your actions are, your life is what you make of it. And then they're like, oh, well, but actually some people are born special.
Right.
It kind of flies in the face of it a little bit, but it's also like, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I just think
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Exactly what
I
you
mean, I have comments on that tie into Valhalla, like what you make of yourself. Like your destiny is not written, and it is what you make of yourself. But it's also like it could have been executed with a little more grace. Let's put it this way: the whole right, everyone can do whatever they want, but then also you need to have a certain amount of blood, but not really. Like, how much blood do you need to be able to? But then how do you get in? Like, it could have been executed with a little more grace, a little less pseudo-scientific determinism, in that your blood decides who you are, right? Because it gets close to certain pseudoscientific ideas that are very uncomfortable for me. I'm trying to be diplomatic here, okay?
I know what you mean.
So I know I'm going to be wrong for saying this, because I have been wrong before on Facebook saying this kind of point, but I always believe that the bloodline system just shows that the don't say I'm trying to get cancelled. It just shows
right, you're amongst friends. You're amongst friends.
It shows how infallible assassins really are. How it's what Haytham really says. You know, that it's a broken system. The assassins are not perfect, and I think the whole thing is this bloodline to be an assassin, whatever, is plausible. I would bet that in ancient times there was probably a sect of hidden ones, or people who believed in free will as the hidden ones, who would only want certain clan members, who would only want certain social status. You know, we see in Unity, Belek was very against Templar control, and it's that idea that assassins can be very grounded and very, I don't know what the word is, but pig-headed I'm going to use. So I think the whole bloodline system is a plausibility to show that some sects of the Blood Brotherhood would probably be that stupid that they wouldn't be like, hey, if you want to fight for freedom, come join us because you've got the cause. They would probably be like, well, it was your mama assassin. Yes, well, you can be part of us. Were you related to someone where you can be part of us? So I think it plays into that idea that maybe both sides dabble in that some will take people on board because of their beliefs, where others will take them on only if they've got a heritage that they can use. If that makes
I'm
sense.
sorry, I have to laugh because it's like a legacy admission, but in the Brotherhood. But no, it makes sense. It's also, I mean, it's also possible that like different branches would have different, let's say, entry,
Yes.
requirements.
Yes.
Because when we see Bayek and Aya found in the Hidden Ones in Egypt, they got the high priest of Apis in Memphis, who is a big deal, and then they got like the people that they get from the streets once again. So it's like there's not like an equal sociocultural status in there. What unites them are like the ideals that they want to uphold. So but then like I mean personally I'm not deep into the lore. So I don't know how these things evolve from place to place, or if there even was like a general, let's say, rule of, oh, these people can enter and these people cannot, right?
No, it's like, I mean, every one of them, all of the different brotherhoods seem to have their own deal. Like Unity, for example, the Parisian Brotherhood is its own like thing. They have a fucking massive chamber with high council seats, and yeah, it's like, and they make new initiates drink some drug fucking chalice and go through a hallucinogen like dream. So they're all different. They're all very, very different. But I think a common point is that anyone can join and anyone can contribute. That was a central theme, not even of like specifically like one game or anything, but the Initiates program, which Initiates started as a website, and then eventually it was a website that in lore was like some people that it was like, we, the fans are secretly tracking the Assassin Templar War and posting about it on this website, and they don't know that we're tracking it. And then eventually the assassins find out and decide to use the Initiates as recruits. And the idea is that anyone can join. The Brotherhood was pretty much destroyed in like 2002. Is that when the Purge was? And so they're like, well, anyone can join. Anyone who has skills that can contribute can be part of it. It's just that the games themselves tend to focus on people with special powers, mainly because without it, there's no Eagle Vision. And without Eagle Vision, well, they'd have to completely redesign how the games play.
I love how literally they took that in Origins. They were like, yes, it's Eagle Vision. Yes, it's an eagle having the vision. Yes, that's how it works. That's where it comes from.
I see no law or science inconsistencies here, Ammit. I don't see what your problem is. It's perfectly fine that you can see through the eyes of Sen.
I love it, and Sen is a good girl. So you would hear no complaints from me.
I would like to bring up 2 quick law points, if that's okay. The first one is, I actually think it was Assassin's Creed 1 that started the anybody can make a brotherhood how they want, because Altair disbanded the Messiah Brotherhood after they got corrupt, because I can't remember who it was who just went completely insane and started terrorizing Messiah. But when Altair disbanded it, he told people to go out and create the Brotherhood in their own way, let anybody in. So I think before AC1, I think that's when they're probably more strict. And on the Senu point, I think it's a comic, but I don't read the comic, so I might get shot here. But Connor's daughter can see through the eyes of an eagle.
Yeah.
Because she tells Connor he's about to be attacked by a wolf, I think. So the idea that they actually canonized that in Origins, like you can see through the eyes of an eagle, was insanely clever, since it was just a throwaway comment in a comic, if that makes sense. I just like the birds.
Personally, I was fine with using my bird drone to spot targets and whatever. But I suppose I'd never known any difference because I played the games in a totally random order. Damn it! I was going to make a point. What was I going to say? Oh, I know. So I was going to ask everyone. So we're kind of in a strange time right now because we're recording this end of March 2023. Valhalla finished its post-release 4 or 5 months ago. We are heading towards 2.5 or more than 2.5 years between Valhalla's release and Mirage, which has been delayed a number of times. It might be out in the summer. We don't know. Could be approaching 3 years between releases. What I wanted to ask was, Odyssey was released just about a year, I think, after Origins, and to me anyway, of course they take a different approach in terms of quote unquote magical abilities or whatever. They're telling a different story. One's a sort of a revenge story that kind of explains the foundation of the Hidden Ones. Well, I'm going to be honest, I'm not particularly a fan of Origins story. Odyssey is more of a journey of discovery, and there is a nice kind of revenge side plot as well. But I feel like they're very, very close cousins or very close siblings in terms of their style. But I'd be interested to hear what did you all think as you finished Origins and picked up Odyssey? Did you think it was the different style and so on was it a nice bit of variation? Was it a mistake? Did it progress the franchise in interesting ways? Declan, go on, mate. What did you think?
I didn't like the transition.
Okay.
I just think it just hurt me the most with the modern day. There was just too much of a time gap. I think it took me about half the game to understand what the heck was going on with the modern day, but the actual historical side, I think they improved greatly. The world was good, just wish there was less water. That's my only complaint.
You don't like warm, sparkling blue seas?
Uncontroversial opinion again, I'm really not liking this episode. I'm against naval combat in Assassin's Creed. I don't like it. I really despise it in Black Flag, even though it's part of the system, so I play it. And I think it's the worst part of Odyssey. No.
Fair enough.
Let's go to someone who's...
Go on, Jodie. You're up next. What do you think?
About the difference about like going from Origins to Odyssey.
Good progress, bad progress, mishmash.
I always consider the Layla trilogy to be like Origins has like decent story, decent gameplay, not perfect, needs some work, but a pretty good game overall. And then I consider Odyssey to be like really tight gameplay. They really nailed down like exactly what they wanted the game to be like. And it plays really well. It feels really well. And then some of the writing is a little bit nonsense. And then I feel like Valhalla is the opposite, where like its gameplay is really janky and kind of weird, but like the story is amazing. And I always feel like I like all three of the games a lot. I think that Odyssey improved a lot on the gameplay mechanics. I do kind of agree with Declan that the naval combat in Odyssey is the weakest part. But I don't agree that naval combat has no place in Assassin's Creed. I love sailing ships.
Yeah, me too.
But I do think the naval combat in Odyssey is a little bad. But I think that otherwise, like, all of the rest of the game is really tightly designed. And it was a bit of a breath of fresh air from Origins, because Origins ended up being, I had to turn the difficulty up super high to like really enjoy myself towards the end, and I just found that, I guess more of a personal taste thing, I find that games that have skill trees that you fill out 100% at the end of the game and become perfect at every single thing, I find that a little boring as a progression tree, and Odyssey didn't do that. Odyssey was very specifically, you have to focus on a couple things. You have to get you have to, really build a play style around that. And I thought that was a really nice change.
Yeah.
And I think it's a shame Valhalla took it away again. But yeah, so I always thought that Odyssey it just felt so smooth. It still does. It feels so smooth to play.
Yeah.
They really nailed it. And some people didn't like the tonal shift to be a lot more lighthearted, especially in the early game and a lot of the side quests, which Odyssey definitely was. I fell in love with Cassandra immediately, so it didn't bother me. It didn't bother me. I actually like that kind of... I like both. I like the serious storytelling that Origins and Valhalla had, and I also like the nonsense, very cartoony vibe of Syndicate and Odyssey as well.
I'll make a confession. I think I might have said this before. Maybe on the very first episode we recorded together, Declan. But this will probably make you laugh, Jodie. So I think, like I said at the start of the show, I had recently built a PC, and the reason for doing that was I used to play games many years ago, and I was returning to gaming. So I built a PC, started playing some of my really old games from like the mid 2000s that I had on my very old Steam account. And then, like I said, a friend of mine said, "Hey, try this game." So, and the rest is history. But even when I'd been playing games like 10, 15 longer years ago, I'd never played an open world game. I'd never played a story or a character led game. I played all kinds of sims, talking like the classic SimCity, DOS-based SimCity and SimCity 2000, and I played flight sims, and I played, like Ammit will know this, the RTS games, like the Total War series. And so I started Odyssey. I had no idea what I was doing. I know this sounds stupid, but I'd never played a game where you would use WASD to move your character around. Anyway, so the game starts, you've got cutscene, whatever, and you zoom in on Cassandra sitting on the top of her house looking at her spear, and you beat up the thugs that have come to sort of punish you. And I started following the markers on the map, and it absolutely blew my mind that you could go anywhere. You can climb stuff, you can get a horse, you can walk around all these areas, you can climb up these cliffs, you can swim in the sea. I can't tell you this experience that I had, and I know it's obvious because you've been able to do this in games for years, but not for me. So it absolutely blew my mind that you could just explore this whole world and find a character and talk to them and pick up a story and go and do it, and like I say, call up a horse or get on a felucca or whatever. And I know it's a really silly thing, but yeah, it completely blew my mind. People always say that Odyssey has this light-hearted tone, and I definitely see what you mean. Like, some of the side quests are absolutely silly. The classic one in Delphi where you have to help the lady get to make the special elixir for her husband, is one that people always talk about. But the central story is not lighthearted at all. It's for me, it felt like a big epic scale tragedy, but maybe I just misinterpreted it. Do you think the main story is also lighthearted, or
no? I agree with you. I agree with you. It's more that, I guess what I mean when I say lighthearted is that compared to Bayek that we had a year earlier, Cassandra is very sarcastic. She's very much willing to call people out on their bullshit. Where Bayek might, muse about the gods and their Bayek's a very serious person.
That's true.
And Cassandra is not. And but the story itself, the main story hooked me from the get-go. That moment when they're sailing off into the ocean, and she's actually the general is my dad. That's I was like, oh shit, okay, there's some stuff gonna happen here.
Would you say it's a Greek tragedy?
Yeah, and then Nikolaos is beware the snakes in the grass. I'm like, oh my god, I'm so here for this. Tell me more. But yeah, Cassandra herself is just she's quite a she's not like always just like cracking jokes and everything, but she's a lot more able to make light of her situation than Bayek was, and even than Eivor is.
She's also like in a very different situation from both of the other two, right?
Absolutely, yeah. She had a life that was like just kind of not incredible, but it was fine. Whereas Bayek is like, my son was killed. I have things to do. Like,
and he was also raised differently. Like he was raised like by a soldier. He was a soldier, or a cop if you want, and anything else. Yeah. And he's also like from a backwater in Egypt. So and didn't have a lot of stuff to do and travels to take or adventures while he was living his life. So it's not like while Cassandra, like, although historical gripes aside, like living as a mercenary, it's like she has a way more freedom than anyone else, than any other character. So it's not surprising to me that it's like that she's able to make light of her situation way more, and she's not as weighted by a lot of responsibilities, apart from the end, like the very end, when she's like, oh, so I need to, okay, good, nice, than the other two, because that's the thing, right? She's alone.
Actually, that's a really good point, because I think she's a lot less lighthearted when we meet her in Valhalla. The weight of that responsibility has really changed who she is, and it's only towards the end of it when Eivor is like, when the two of them actually sort of talk a little bit, that Cassandra has like a bit of fun for the first time in a while.
Yeah, and it's like, and now that I think of it, it's like, well, because she's the one who doesn't really have a community, because Bayek has his people at Siwa, he has a family, I mean, he has an ex-wife at that point, and then when he founds the Brotherhood, that becomes his community, right? He's found family. Eivor has a whole clan to take care of, and Cassandra is alone for the whole time. Yeah, she has the friends here and there, but she doesn't have like, oh, I can go home and be home with these people, especially after she realizes that she's immortal, because it's a Superman issue, right? What, like, do you get attached to people if you know that they're all going to die before you? Right?
Yeah,
like how does
honestly.
that? It is tragic. It is very tragic. So when people say, "Oh, but Cassandra is so lighthearted," I'm like, think about that. She's alone.
When we see her, she's lighthearted. Yeah. She's lighthearted when we see her in Odyssey for the most part. But I mean, look, I'd be depressed and sad if the only person I had to talk to for thousands of
was
years
a staff.
Oh my god.
Yeah, but but it's also,
you must find the artifact. Keeper.
Yeah, like, listen,
stuff. Keeper. Like, for God's sake.
Yeah, listen, Google Assistant. Shut up, Siri. All right, it's like Siri, but on steroids.
Malicious Siri.
Yeah. Shut up.
Ammit, what did you think about the transition then? The sort of style changes, gameplay changes, different type of story.
So I agree with a lot of what Jodie said. I did like the shift from Origins to Odyssey in terms of like really ironing out like the kind of rough edges that the gameplay and like the mechanics still had. I did not enjoy the skill tree in Odyssey, but that's because I play in a very like I tried to play Odyssey as I played Origins. But I did not like a lot of the equipment that I was given. So I was like, oh, I want a bow that does this. And if I can't have it, then I'm gonna have to change my play style. I'm gonna be grumpy, and I refuse to learn anything else because I'm a stubborn person. I did like the change in scenery a lot. I did like that the world was less empty, but that's also like a byproduct of having the desert because it's Egypt, so you can't have a lot of stuff in the desert. I did like the change of scope, right? We go from, oh, it's a family drama to, oh, it's something bigger, but it's still like Roman policy, to, oh shit, this starts as family drama and now it's a Greek policy, and now it's, we need to save the world because Atlantis has come now, right? And it just made it so much bigger. And then Valhalla, I think Valhalla wrote, apart from the very last chapter, which I hate and I think killed everything good that they did, I think that the writing was great. I think that they really nailed the characters. I think that they even nailed how the characters interacted with each other, which in some of the others was kind of stiff. Or but like you have a really good like ensemble of secondary characters for which like you want to care because it's a community, right? Again, it is an actual community. It's always the same people that you see. And I think that the way in which they use the Izu elements in Valhalla was far superior to Odyssey and Origins. But I still think that Origins, to me, was a better game because, I mean, probably because it's Egypt, but also because I really liked Bayek in his issues and complexities, and like you see that he's really nice with children, but then he's fucking terrifying with his enemies, and that he really does not know what to do when women are flirting with him, which is hilarious to me.
Wait, which women are flirting with him?
Oh my god, there is one quest in which you're helping this woman to, you know, find stuff and help her with like regaining her farm and everything else, and then she's actually citing
yes,
an
is that
ancient
I
Egyptian
think it's
love
Praxilla,
song.
isn't it?
No,
Yes.
that's a sexy doctor. That's another thing. No, it's an Egyptian woman, and then she cites an ancient Egyptian love song, and she says, "Oh, my garden is open and my fruit is ripe." And he's like, yes, so I have to go. Goodbye, ma'am." And it was like, Bayek,
I see.
I mean, I understand. But I really like Bayek. But I also love that finally in Odyssey and Valhalla we got female characters that we could play, okay, and be gay with them. Which I mean, Bayek, poor soul. I mean, I understand why he wanted to be faithful and everything else, but also bit restrictive. But I love him. But I think that for me, like the technical parts, probably Odyssey is the best one. Story wise, Origins and Valhalla. And for like the Izu stuff, absolutely Valhalla took the cherry. Like my mind was absolutely blown with the whole tree and the simulation and everything else.
Go on, Jodie, you got your hand up.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that Ammit said, and Ammit was talking about how the world in Odyssey was less empty. I honestly feel like it was the opposite. I thought Origins world design was easily the best of the new trilogy. I thought that it was so filled with just like little unique things to see and find. Like you'd go into a temple and there'd be priestesses, you know, performing rituals that you wouldn't see in other temples in Egypt. And like you could read little notes around that would have little prayers or just little stories. There was stuff you could go to the Library of Alexandria and read things about, you know, maths and other stuff. And then like in comparison, I felt like Odyssey, so many of its towns had nothing to see. Like so many of its towns were like one of the mercenary like quest boards and a blacksmith. And it was like, oh, okay, cool. There's this temple on top of the hill. What do I do here? You walk in it and it's like got the same mural as all the other temples. It's like, okay, well, I don't know if that's historically accurate or not, but as when it comes to like using the game as historical tourism, it felt like Origins had a lot more to show you. Like in Curse of the Pharaohs, the DLC, I think it's Curse of the Pharaohs.
Yes, it is.
There's this area in the overworld map that's just this like village built into the side of a mountain, inhabited purely by cats.
Oh yeah,
it's just,
yeah.
It's just like there. It's not there for a story quest, or there's no like, you know, I feel like if there was something like that in Odyssey, it would be you'd walk up to it and a quest would start and Cassandra would talk about the village full of cats and then you'd have to rescue a cat or something. But in Origins, it's just like you just find that kind of stuff and it's just kind of in the world.
Okay, let me rephrase my statement. Like I think that Origins did the quality and Odyssey did the quantity. So it depends on what you want. I do love Origins way more than Odyssey. It's just that it had a lot of empty places, but also more diversity in the environment, which I really liked. I wish they had gone more south, so there would have been even more diversity in, you know, in the scenery and the kind of people and villages that you would meet. Sorry, I cut you off there.
No, that's pretty much it. Yeah, I just thought that Origins felt like a world, like you said, had a lot of lot of diversity. I felt like every town and every city in Origins had a unique identity.
Yeah.
And it felt very unique to navigate. And it had, I mean, obviously there's the main cities like Alexandria and Memphis, which have their own lighting and weather and everything. But I'm also just like all the other different towns, like Heracleon, where you meet with Cleopatra's camp, where it's all throughout the river. You know, it's all in the swamps, and you have to cross the river by parkouring across the pillars and everything. And then Siwa is an amazing town, and then Cyrene up north, like going up there, I was like, holy crap, there's just this full Roman walled city here, like
beautiful in a beautiful region.
I loved all
oh
that
my
kind
God.
of stuff.
Oh, that
I just
region
thought
is
there was
great.
so much like variety in not just the terrain and the climate, but just like, I don't know, just going into a house and seeing something there, and then you interact with a little readable, and it gives you a bit of lore about some guy who ran off into the wilderness to go live with the lions. And 3 hours later, you're running around in the mountains to the west of Alexandria, and you find a cave full of lions with a skeleton in it.
Yeah, and you're like, oh
And
shit.
Really? Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Oh crap! Yeah, there's also the guy who wants to become a crocodile, and then there's a crocodile that comes to you if you whistle, and it doesn't attack you.
But yeah, like Odyssey didn't have any of that kind of stuff.
In Fayoum, yeah, no,
Odyssey focused on quests instead.
Yeah, Odyssey was full.
fair.
Odyssey had some really good characterization of like the main cities, but you need to know them, right? You need to know what you're looking at to be like, oh,
Yeah.
this is so cool, because I don't explain it to you.
So
Yeah.
there's seven different biomes in Odyssey's world. I don't know how many there are in Origins. I'd probably guess 4 or 5. You're definitely right. The cities, the houses are. There's less of those little. What's the right word? Like the sprinkles on top of a cake. There's less of those little sprinkles to make the world interesting. That's true. But like you said, Ammit, I always felt like the cities had clear differences. Like Sparta is very open, and there's more of that kind of red brick feel to it. And of course, you've got the villages surrounding it anyway. Athens is all stone and paving and surrounded by walls, and Tegea is full of farm animals. You know, you've got the Olympics, of course. But there's definitely something special about Origins World, that's for sure. I'd say one thing I did like about Corfu, I don't know if you noticed this when you were playing it, but when they added Corfu, I mean, first of all, I still think it's amazing. We've got a whole new map and a whole new story. But anyway, I noticed as I was exploring Corfu, it wasn't just one of the existing biomes copied and pasted. There was little references, or I mean, of course, it's all the same library of assets that they've already created, but they really built that island and took little pieces of style from Sparta, from Attica, and so on, from Phokis, and they did give it its own kind of unique feeling, which I really appreciated. But
actually,
go on.
I think a perfect example of what I was thinking about with Odyssey is that, like, there's this whole area in, I guess, sort of the central mainland that is this massive forest full of statues of centaurs.
Yes.
And it has pretty much no purpose in the game. I feel like if that were in Origins, there'd be some kind of, you could like be able to read a note on one of the statues or something, or like something to give it some context into the world. But in Odyssey, it's just kind of there, and you walk around it and you're like, oh, there's this statue, there's this forest full of centaur statues. And then not only is there nothing done with it, but there's not even really any secret to find there. Like, there's not really, like, you just see it and then you go past it. But in Origins, I feel like I would poke around until I found something interesting about what that is. What is it doing there? Anyway.
It's a world that Cassandra moves through rather than a world that she particularly cares about or explores deeply. Perhaps you could interpret it like that. I'm not really sure, but I know what you mean. Go on, Ammit. You got your hand up.
No, what Odyssey is doing with places like that, and with like other places that are like relevant for mythology and everything else, is that on the map you get the eye icon, and then you can read about it on the map, but not as the character. So as the player, you're like learning about these things, but Cassandra is not like, it's not like Cassandra is learning about these places. I do wonder if that could have been done better by putting like, inscriptions or anything else instead of just the icons on the map, because if you don't know that they're there, you will never read them, right?
Yeah.
It would have probably would have been more immersive. It would have also been a nice nod to Pausanias' guide to Greece, which is
Yes.
basically like a historical, a historical tourist guide
The
through
OG
Greece.
Discovery Tour. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That would have been nicer instead of just going back to the map and like looking at the eye icons. I think I would have liked that more now that I think about it.
Mm. Declan, any closing thoughts on Odyssey? Because I am looking forward to getting to the conclusion of this trilogy. But before we do, any closing thoughts on Odyssey?
No, I generally think Odyssey is one of the most fun Assassin's Creed games out there, and I kind of think the way the combat works for the skill tree and the way you can build any character you want kind of gives more player freedom than most games have given. And for a game, I really think people need to realize games need to be fun, so that adds a fun factor that's not seen anywhere else.
Mm. Mm. Your point there is a perf about not exploring the world, but what's the right word? Expanding your character and customizing your character. It was a pretty significant. You didn't need to do it if you didn't want to, but if you wanted to kind of extract the most from Odyssey, I mean, I spent a lot of time and got a lot of enjoyment from trying different play styles, trying different weapon types, trying different skill types, and just basically sort of having fun within the sandbox, through the skill tree, through the mastery levels, through different engravings that you can put on your gear, all that stuff, which I totally appreciate. There are people who play these games that don't want any of that in these games. That's fine. But that's a good segue to Valhalla, because you see, me in my naivety, I kind of thought I was so looking forward to Valhalla. And I kind of thought, this is going to be great. This is going to be the best of Origins and the best of Odyssey. And it's just going to be like the culmination of years and years of work. And for me, it was quite a frustrating game to play, quite a letdown. And I'm not, no surprises here. I think we've discussed this many times at length. There are aspects of it that I think are incredible, but there's something about it. I guess it's its structure or its length, or maybe it's back to that tone point. Odyssey swept me away on an adventure, and I just wanted more, and I kept playing it every day until I'd finished. Origins was more serious, but again, once I got engrossed into the story, I was engrossed and I loved exploring the world. And there's something about Valhalla, it didn't quite work for me. But Jodie, I've got to come to your quote. Tell us more.
Okay. About why I said on Twitter, I can't even remember how long ago it was, but I think I said on Twitter that Valhalla is the best story I've ever experienced in a video game.
That was it. Yep. All right, let's go. I've got popcorn and tea, okay. So let's go.
So it was a bit of a controversial one, I think. But I guess when I think about what kinds of stories do I really stick with me in video games, I try to think of games that tell stories that couldn't be told in other mediums. I think that's, for me, what makes a really memorable video game story, because I feel like there's a lot of games that just put a plot into their game, and then it's like fine, it's serviceable, it serves the gameplay, but like if you were to transpose that, you could rip out all the story missions, turn it into a movie or a TV series, and it'd be fine. But or even it would be average in most cases. Like a lot of game stories are they're there to service the game. And they're just kind of a narrative through line to pull you from one level to the next. But I feel like every so often there's some games that use the nature of interactive entertainment to tell a story that's really, really unique and really powerful. I think, there's some famous examples. Games like Undertale come to mind. And I think that the reason I think Valhalla is so excellent is that, first of all, it uses a non-standard storytelling structure, which is that it's all based on these little story arcs that are like kind of self-contained, and that's quite new for video games. That's not a common way of doing stories, especially not in open world games. And so that was something that was quite new, and I personally really loved it because I love that kind of episodic villain of the week, you know, do this and like do this storyline, wrap it up, but then there's a little hint towards the next part. I love that. I thought that was a really unique way of doing the story, and I thought that was really cool. But I think what really sealed the deal for me was the fact that they never really, like, throughout all of Valhalla, right from the very beginning, when little kid Eivor gets attacked by those wolves, and then the Animus freaks out.
Oh, that was great. Yes.
They never actually just sit down and tell you why. And they leave it up to the player to not only do the Animus anomalies, but also explore the mythological worlds like Jotunheim and Asgard, and interpret the notes there. They encourage players to think back on the lore of the previous games, you know, and recognize things, little hints, and connect those dots themselves. Like, I think the moment that the whole, like, the coin dropped for me was when I walked into Angerboda's hut in Jotunheim, and she started talking, and I thought, oh, that's Alethea. That's Alethea's voice actor. So, wait, that's Alethea's voice actor. Hang on a minute. And then I was like, oh my god, this is the Isu. This is the Isu time. And then, you know, and then it just got more confirmed, because then you went up to sort of the city in Jotunheim, and you'd speak to Gunloader. I'm like, that's Minerva's voice. Holy shit. You know, and you'd speak to I can't remember all of the characters' names, but you know, the
Hirokin was the other one I remember.
Yeah, Hirokin, Juno's voice is so, like, distinct, and I was like, wow, and so very quickly I was like, oh my god, this is all connecting. And then immediately when I realized that Angerboda was this shady witch that was working with Loki, I'm like, oh shit, Alethea's evil. And it was just like all of these little dots connected. And I think that it's Valhalla, the reason I think that it's such an incredible way of telling a story is that the central mystery of the plot is they never sit down and they just give you a big exposition dump. They kind of just drop little clues and hints and rely on the player to piece it together, to combine knowledge from previous games and to read, you know, take note of little bits of lore from notes you find on the ground in certain parts of the story, to, you know, the implications of some things that happen in the mythological segments. And it means that, like, if you've done that legwork and then you get to the end of the game and then you're in the Valhalla simulation and Eivor escapes and then Basim's waiting there for her, oh my god. The realization that when I was like, holy shit, Basim is Loki, like that realization, and sort of then piecing together the entire, like looking back across the entire storyline, and it recontextualized the whole plot, and all of the puzzle pieces fit into place, not because the game had given me all the exposition, but because I had, like, done the investigating, done the thinking, you know, spent time outside of the game theorizing about, oh, why can I choose Eivor's gender in the Animus? Why is that a mechanic? You know, why does she turn into a guy when in the dream worlds? What's going on there? Theorizing about all of that, and then it just all tying together so well in a way that's like, if you've done all that thinking, if you've done all that sort of thought about all of the little hints and bits that they drop throughout the game and everything, then the finale comes together in such a beautiful way. And I saw people right after the sort of game released, after I'd finished, I saw people posting on the Assassin's Creed subreddit about I don't understand. Why is Bassam there? Why is Bassam show up? Why are we fighting Bassam? Why is he evil? And it was like, because it just felt like, I just thought that the story was really unique in that it asked engagement of the players. And I often find that, like, you know, a lot of people get to the end of the story like, it doesn't make sense. This is just Isu nonsense, just sci-fi bullshit. And it's like, I just felt like it was a game that asked a bit of the player. It didn't just deliver its story to you from cutscene to cutscene. It asked you to engage with it and engage with what it was trying to put down. And I think that's something that only a video game can do. Because I think that, like, if it's a movie, it's got to tell you a story. It's got a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I always thought that Valhalla asked a bit more of the player to piece together the narrative. And I just thought that was such a unique way of doing a storyline. And I think they pulled it off with absolute, like, masterful skill. I think they pulled it off with masterful skill. But yeah, that's why. I know I've just talked for like 10 minutes, but yeah. I just talked for 10 minutes about Valhalla's story, but yeah, that's how I feel about it. I think that it's something that they only could have done in the game. And great. They did it perfectly.
Yeah. We'll just roll credits there. No, I'm kidding. That's great, Jodie. Appreciated you talking through, and what you said makes a lot of sense. Go on, Ammit.
Trying to figure out what is going on and what has gone on is something that The Last of Us 2 does really well. And it's like, it's right, and you're trying to figure out what is going on, and like, and you have only like context clues and like environmental clues to figure it out, and it's something that I absolutely love. That's also like basically what we do with archaeology. So so I really like that. For Valhalla, I think they did that incredibly. The coin drop for me when I was in Asgard, and I started seeing that the people had the same faces of other characters that I had met. And I was like, okay, so either we are doing reincarnation, or Eivor is mapping the people that she knows over the Aesir, and the Vanir, but then why would she do that? So I was like, tentatively reincarnation. And then the more I went on, I was like, yes, we're doing the reincarnation, like 100%. I don't know why. And then when we got to the Valhalla scene and Svala was there, I was like, oh fuck, oh my god, we're doing genetic engineering and reincarnating into actual fetuses, and I had so many questions. But I loved it. I was actually yelling. I was on the phone with Sani from the Sisterhood server while I was playing, because she had finished before me, and she was like, when you get there you need to call me because I want your reaction while you're playing. That take 3 hours and play the ending with no interruptions, and I could not stop yelling. It was fantastic. It was incredible. And I think that was a great way. That was probably the best execution of, we need to have the Isu in, but in an intelligent way, because it made sense, right? And it went right over the heads of a lot of people, because it's such a big game that a lot of people got bored after a while of playing, and they didn't even care about reading, because not everyone's a nerd. So they got tired about, oh, so many side quests and everything else. It's too big. I don't want to get to the end. What is the significance of this? But I think that, like, if as Jodie said, like, if you've done like some of the legwork, then it was really, really rewarding in terms of how they executed the whole thing. And I think that, like, most of the DLCs also like were well done in that sense, because they added something to the story. I think the one that I liked the most was the Paris one, because it really added more context to like the whole issue of what is a good leader, right? How do we deal with leadership, right? Who gets to be a good leader, and how does it work? And I do think that, like, the way in which they created the world was smart, although I think, James, was one of the first conversation that we had that you said that you found England very boring, as opposed to Greece or Egypt.
I'll yes, but I'll make a little correction. So I think how to explain it. of course, it's not a one-to-one mapping of, England and all the rest of it. And the map is twisted and adjusted to suit the needs of the game. That's fine. What they did very well, and again, you see people from Greece coming in out onto the Odyssey subreddit and saying the same thing. They capture the spirit of a region. Mm-hmm. So, there are parts of the UK or England, I guess, where they really did, through their world design, their art design, whatever, they really do capture the feel. The one that always sticks in my mind, do you remember the quest out in the west in Shropshire with King Rodri?
Yes.
That area of England with the rolling hills, the heather, the mountains in the distance, they really captured that in a really, really beautiful way. The bit I was surprised about, and this goes back to the point we were talking about earlier about which worlds feel more populated or more busy or more active, is outside of the cities, I felt Valhalla was the most empty and dull region. There was England is not a very exciting country anyway. It's low rolling hills. Our tallest mountain, which is not even in the game, is 1,000 meters or less than that up in the Lake District. So England is not a particularly, we don't have beautiful, expansive blue skies and wide open, sun-bleached deserts. We don't have the blue, azure sea of the Aegean. So England was never going to be as exciting. But, you could ride from London to York or Jorvik, and you'd see nothing. You wouldn't even see sheep. England was a sheep, a country full of sheep, a wool empire almost. And there's no sheep. There'd be like 3 cows in a field outside a village, and that was. And I couldn't understand why it was so empty. Now, the only thing I guess is definitely aspects of the, I guess you'd call it, the visual assets, the lighting are stunning.
Yes.
Maybe in order to sort of boost the technical presentation of the world, they had to reduce the density of the world. So there are fewer NPCs, there are fewer farm animals. You aren't really getting any wild beasts attacking you like you would see often in that sort of, what do they call it, like emergent kind of gameplay or whatever, like you get in Origins, and a lot less so in Odyssey. So in some ways, the world was absolutely beautiful, and it did feel like a nice representation of England. And in other ways, it was the most, for me anyway, the most empty, most dead of all of the worlds. So yeah, go on, Jodie.
Just a quick note. I think in that sort of the spirit of that, I think that really importantly, Valhalla's forests were bad.
Yeah.
I think that the forests were not good. And if you look at other games, I think the game that is sort of the crowning achievement of open world, like sort of European forest, is Kingdom Come Deliverance.
Yes.
If you've seen the way that they do forests, oh my god, Valhalla's forests are a disaster by comparison. Yeah. They are just like, they're like meadows with like trees just, like 20 meters apart. That's what a Valhalla forest feels like.
Yeah.
I think that's a real problem with the game's world, is that the forests, they just didn't do them good enough.
Yeah, there's too much space. You can go through a forest with a horse. That's not how it works. But wait, so one other thing that I wanted to say though is like, so if we take like the single games, I think the one that for me absolutely stuck the landing was Origins. Like it was, for me, it was like really perfect from start to finish in terms of storytelling. And I think Valhalla did the Game of Thrones thing. And I know a lot of people agree. I know that Jodie disagrees, and we're not gonna fight. You're not gonna fight it out here. I can come out there, and we can have a fisticuff.
We'll find the time.
Yeah, it's fine. It's okay. I can take a flight. But the one thing that really, really left like a bad taste in my mouth, and I said as much, and I'm gonna say it again, is that all the female characters got the short end of the stick, and that's what she said. Because Layla was used and then killed. Also because she could have taped the stuff onto herself, right? I mean, you got tape, girl. Get on with the program. Cassandra had a lifetime of loneliness completely wasted because of Aletheia. And that's not even mentioning Eivor. But like, I feel like doing both Cassandra and Layla so dirty at the end was gross. It really, really made me angry because it is like when the, and I said this to Darby actually on the server. I was like, if you had,
Oh, I remember that. Yes.
if the diagram of characters that get a bad ending and characters that are females is a circle, you have a problem. And I stand by that, because that was very enraging. That really left a bad taste in my mouth. And that's also probably why I don't know if I'm going to play Valhalla again, like to the end, because I just remember like the thing that I was like, oh, so once again we're going back to a male protagonist and we fucked up all the female protagonists. Cool, nice. I really don't like this. So that was bad. And like at least in Origins, Aya went to Rome. She went to a nice farm upstate. She went to Rome, founded, the Brotherhood, did her own things, and then she was really cool in the comics. But Valhalla really, really did wrong everyone that we liked from Odyssey, and also its own characters. So yeah, that is like, I would be remiss if I did not mention that.
That's entirely fair. I felt that, was it called Last Chapter? Final Chapter was odd. I want to come back though, just to one thing that when Jodie earlier was describing Valhalla's storytelling and its requirement of the player to pay attention. I was listening to you talk, Jodie, and I was thinking, God damn it, I wish I'd had that experience. And I don't know, again, I don't think I'll ever replay Valhalla. It's just too damn long. If there's no, I wish we could even, we've talked about this before when we had Andrew on the show, when we did our replayability episode last summer, Andrew said, look, it would be great even if we could go to the map table. And then, Layla comes over the Animus intercom and says, right, I'm going to replay East Anglia or something. It would be so nice to replay story elements and try and re-experience it again. But I wonder if I played the game the wrong way. And I wish I could forget it and start again. What I do recall is I was a couple of days in, about 6-8 hours in, and my save game just disappeared. The cloud save screwed up. I'm assuming it was a UB Connect, because UB Connect was under a lot of strain in those first few days, as I remember. A lot of issues with save games and synchronization, plus a lot of bugs in the game. Anyway, I lost my progress and I was gutted, and it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. But anyway, when I play these sorts of games, and I'm currently playing The Witcher 3, and I'm deep down in the southwest of Velen, and I like to explore these open worlds and walk through the forests and talk to the NPCs. Oh, there's a quest marker, let's go and do that quest. So I tend to pad out the story with lots of bits that aren't critical to the story, and there's just something about Valhalla where I just mentally checked out after about a month of playing and getting about 60% through the story. And I suppose maybe I didn't know enough of the lore, or maybe I was just not paying enough attention. But like things about the Jotnars actually being the Isu, that passed me by, unfortunately. And by the end of it, a lot of stuff just not that it didn't make sense, because I did the penny did drop eventually, but I don't know. I wonder if I played the game again and I just did the main arcs and ignored all the world events, all the side content, all the little, flying papers, what were they called? The tattoo paper challenges. If I ignored all of that, would I have that more focused story experience? I'd kind of like NG Plus as well, to kind of skip any need to find gear and level. But anyway, if I could just play the core story, would I have the same experience you had? Or maybe I just don't pay enough attention.
I think it worked so well for me because I love Eivor. I simped over Eivor the whole game, so that helped, because every single minute that there was anything with Eivor in it, I was brain switched on.
Gotcha.
Yeah, can confirm. Yep. Yes.
I think that I don't know, I guess I tried to go into the game not expecting it to be this like linear story of missions I can just like blow through in a quest line. Because I think they probably could have communicated it a little better. Because Darby said a lot of stuff on Twitter before the game launched, that the game was going to be a lot more episodic.
Yeah.
And And so I treated it like a marathon, not a sprint, from the very start. And so I was never frustrated with a lack of story progress, because to me it was like, okay, well, here's the next episode. You know, like I'm going to sit down and I'm going to play the next episode for the next couple days. And then I'm going to take a break, and then I'm going to play the next episode in a couple days. It felt like watching a TV series for a good few years. That's what it felt like. I mean, I didn't play it for a good few years, but like, it felt like the kind of TV show that you sit down and you watch a couple episodes, and then you come back, and then by the end of season 3, stuff's all heating up and everything's all coming together, and you're like, oh my god, this is stuff from like 2 seasons ago. It's that kind of feeling. That's what Valhalla did for me. And I think that was something that I don't think works for everybody, because I don't think everyone was, first of all, expecting it, and second of all, enjoy that. So I think I understand that why people like you like bounced off. I do understand it. I think that it certainly isn't one that works for everyone's style of playing games, everyone's tastes, everyone's interests. So,
yeah. Declan, you've been very quiet. Valhalla, thumbs up, thumbs down, 2 thumbs up, thumbs middle. What do you reckon?
Valhalla's one of my favourites. All of them are my favourite, but I love mythology. I love how they tie that with the Isu in a very respectful way. I think the biggest complaint I'll have with Valhalla, and I've probably said it too many times, is I don't like that Odin was promoted as a second playable character. And I'm not saying that from a point of view that...
Bravo, say it!
I have 2 points of view. I'm saving it from one, we need a female protagonist. That's my main one. But my main stance is, you ruined a perfect plot twist by having Harvey as a playable character. I figured out Harvey was Eivor after the second confession corridor. That's when I was like, if she's imagining Harvey in these confession corridors, then Harvey must be in her mind. Therefore, she must have an Isu connection to Harvey. Is she a sage? And I just felt I would never have gotten along the lines if I wasn't expecting the syndicate twist of Eivor being kicked out and Harvey being playable. If I didn't know Harvey was going to pop up anywhere, I think I would have took a lot longer to dawn on me. So I kind of think that Valhalla's great, but Harvey was just one of the worst choices to be a playable character.
Okay, interesting. I always felt like I didn't think about Odin being a playable character at all until it happened. When you go into the confession scenes and Odin is standing there and he's like talking, and I'm like, oh, that's the male Eivor voice. Okay. It didn't click in my mind anywhere, because I was like, that's okay. Reusing voice actors and everything makes sense, because they already did that for Eivor's parents. So it was like, okay, got the same actor. Fair enough. Get some use out of a good actor. Cool. You know, that way I can still hear Magnus Brune's voice, even if I'm not playing as his version of Eivor. So that's fine. That's cool. And then, so I guess I didn't expect it to be like, I had no idea what to expect going into the mythical realms. It started to click for me when Eivor like woke up in Asgard as Harvey, as a guy. I was like, oh, what's going on here? Like, is this some kind of sage stuff? But yeah, it didn't really drop until, like I said before, I heard Angerboda's voice. And then I was like, no, this reuse of voice actors is very deliberate. Like, I would not have picked Alethea's voice actor to play a Jotnar in any other series if you were going for, like, I don't know. It's like how they got all of the voice actors for Odyssey to be, like, actually Greek people. You know, I mean, obviously they can't get a real Jotnar, but, you know, when it comes to, like, finding voice actors that fit the time period, the Isu voice actors didn't come to mind as the first kind of thing they'd choose for a Jotnar unless it was deliberate.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And I mean, and
If
also
that
like
makes
the
sense.
reusing the assets, like I mean, reusing the assets, using the same people's faces with like different hair for
I didn't
the
know.
for the
I
main
didn't
gods.
even notice that at all. I never noticed that at all.
Oh my
Whoa,
god!
whoa,
My
whoa, whoa,
notice
whoa.
that.
What's this, Amit?
Yeah, when you're in
Yeah.
Asgard, Tyr has the face of Sigurd, just with a different hairstyle
Oh,
and
Yeah.
without the beard,
yes.
right? All of that.
Okay,
I
so
Like,
didn't notice that.
I'll just say on that point, right? The fact that all of Avor's buddies that she meets are all sages. Yeah, that penny took an embarrassingly long time to draw. But anyway, back to the story. Back to you.
I think the bit that took the longest for me to really click was the fact that there was a mark on their necks.
yes,
That one
yes,
was quite
yes.
unclear for the
Yeah.
majority of the story, and it was only when Bassam was like, "Let me see your neck," at the very end, that I was like, "Oh wait, the necks are a thing." And then I went to the camera mode and zoomed up on every character. Oh yeah, they have a mark there.
Oh, yeah. That. Well, I figured I kind of figured that when I saw the video sequence from like when they get injected with the thing, and they have
Mm.
right like oh, and then things started clicking in. But then I also had like another revelation moment, and I was like, wait, so she's seeing, so Eivor is seeing her past life, so she is basically in an animus. So we are in an animus inside an animus. So, but like
Yeah.
like outside animus is like techno, and the inside animus is psychotropic substances.
Yeah, it's
So-
drugs. Yeah. Yeah.
drugs. I was like, oh my god! And then I mean, lots of good ideas about who thought about that animus. And actually, we are told who invented the potion, because in Dawn of Ragnarok, you find the notes of Freya, who was absolutely learning about reincarnation and reliving your past lives with the dwarves, doing magic.
Right.
So it was Svala who did the thing and taught her daughter.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
I didn't realize Dawn of Ragnarok had
Yeah, no,
anything
it's like,
useful to contribute. That's really cool.
yeah, no. You find
Glad
Freya's
you said
notes,
that,
and it's
Jodie.
like, oh, she was working on like this mead that will open your mind and send you into your
Oh.
past memories, and you're like, oh wait, whose mother is this? Like this woman that we meet, whose daughter has
that's
learned
cool.
everything. So yeah, so it's like, so it is Isu technology, just with 9th century tools.
Gotcha. Interesting.
So cool.
I want to close with a question for everyone. So, 3 games, 3 different types of stories, I think. But, definitely a shift from the earlier games, much more open, much longer. That's true. My question is, we got Mirage coming out sometime this year. We've got Red. We've got Hexe. I think there's potentially like 11 different projects in development of all kinds of media. VR game has been rumored and all sorts. My question for you all is, Declan, you're up first, mate, so think fast. My question is, what would you like to see retained from this style of game, and what would you like to see binned? I'm assuming we'd all like to see Redder back in Baghdad, would we? Declan, what do you think?
Okay, keep open world. I really think history can be told better in open world than condensed into history. Get rid of character choice and get rid of skill trees. Other than that, I think everything else could stay. It's not bad, in my opinion.
Nice and easy, mate. All right. Jodie, what do you think?
I don't know. That's a really hard question.
I realised as I was asking it, actually, it is quite a hard question. I'm sorry, we can skip it. We can move on.
No. I'm just trying to think about what specific things I guess I want to see more of. I want to see more of the. I want to see more Isu lore that's actually relevant to the story. Like, Valhalla did it really well. Odyssey tried it, but I felt like didn't really know what it was doing. And Origins had very little. I think something that I would love to see more Valhalla style, like just having the Isu stuff be important and having the central modern day plot moved forward is something that Valhalla did that Origins and Odyssey didn't do. And I would love to see that carried forward. In terms of things I want to be left behind, I think I'd be happy with dialogue choices being left behind. I think it's fine, but like, I mean, it's not the end of the world, I guess. I don't know. I don't hate them as much as some people do. But I wouldn't cry over their removal, you know. And same with protagonist gender choice. I think that one needs to go. I think we just need to have a woman in the game. Just like,
yeah.
I don't want to see any more arguments on Twitter or on the subreddit or whatever about no, but actually Eivor's a guy because I chose Eivor as a guy, so that's how I experience it. So therefore, it's like, well, cool, but like, it's Ubisoft's fault that it's this convoluted.
Yes.
And I think they should stop that.
I think write a story
that needs to be
represents
gone.
that. Yeah. Understood.
But yeah, that's pretty much it for me, I think.
Right.
Otherwise, I just feel like everyone, they can do whatever they like. I feel like they could make an Assassin's Creed match 3 puzzle game, and if they put a modern day lore drop in it, I'll play it. So, like, just, I don't know. I think the game designers know, generally speaking, what's good for their game, and so as long as they stay faithful to what they want their game to be, I will play it in good faith, and that's how I sort of feel about it.
Yeah. I'll come to you just in a moment, Ammit, but one thing you said about dialogue choice, I'm neither here nor there. I don't enjoy the older games without dialogue choice more or less. I think the one thought I have on Valhalla is if you're going to have dialogue choice, go all in. Don't half-arse it. And I felt like Valhalla half-arsed it. Why was it even in there to have dialogue choice so few and far between? Just give me a linear story. You know, don't make me think that I'm missing out on extra story or extra dialogue because I've had to make a choice here whether to punch Sigurd or sleep with, oh my God, what's her name? Ranvi, that was it. I don't know. If you're going to go for it, then go all in and let me choose every quest or every sub part of every quest. But if you want to go really all in, make it part of the Animus, you know. Give me like an Animus overlay that says that, I think we talked about this on the live stream with Darby, you know. Give me percentages, you know, 85% of initiates who used the Animus chose this option, you know, or whatever. Let the Animus analyze the DNA stream and say, we think this is most likely, but these are other possible outcomes. So you're making the Animus layer really front and center of the dialogue choice, or just delete it personally. Yeah. Go on, Ammit, over to you.
Oh, no, I agree that like the choices need to make sense. Like make it like Pentiment, where every choice you make is the wrong one and everything goes to shit all the time. That's, you know, Pentiment is a great game, but you know, all the choices that you make are difficult and there's no good ones. So apart from a few ones. So I agree on that. I will one up on keep the female protagonist. Keep the romances fixed, right? If there is one canon romance, then there is one canon romance.
Yes,
right?
Agree with that.
Keep that. I know that they would not make a canon non-straight romance for marketing reasons, because it would not sell certain places. But I wish they did. I really wish they did because we need representation. And that is that is also they should, right? I mean, if you want to give us options, then there's no canon romance, then we can sleep with anyone. But if there are no options, then if one romance is canon, then that one's the canon no matter what you choose, right? And at the end of the day, then take away those choices. I think that's what I would like to see, because it's also like annoying to see people, oh no, but see, this romance is more canon than this one. It's like, no, this one is clearly well developed enough that we can call it canon. And I would like to see the double bows and the shields again, but like in the Origin style, not in the Valhalla style. Like swapping between bows during combat, that was fantastic for me. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yes.
Changing from the Predator bow to the machine gun, incredible, fantastic. Like, give me that again. Give me usable shields that are not like tower shields that I need to use two hands to lift. I would like to keep that. And as for like things to leave behind, I don't know. I'm not particularly picky about these things. I would like to see more, and I mean, a lot of people hate it. I would like to see more culturally mediated Isu memories. I loved Atlantis because it was so Greek, but it was also off, right? And I liked Asgard because it was very Norse. I mean, quote unquote Norse, but it was also off. I would like to see more of that, and then see how it really was in reality, like outside of the anime simulation, because
Yeah.
I think it would be really cool. I don't agree with people who say, "Oh, we don't need to see the cultural mediated stuff," because no, if you're playing as an ancient character, then anything that they imagine or any hallucination that they're gonna have are going to be culturally mediated through what they know and what they imagine. So I think it's a really nice thing to do. But I would also like to see like we had with the with the sage sequence, to see how it actually looked like after a while. I thought that was a great thing. Things to leave behind, I don't know, man. I mean, the hippos were very aggressive, but they are in real life, so
It's historically accurate, or
it is
biologically accurate.
biologically accurate hippos. I know, just maybe more more like megalofauna going around.
Wait
Like,
until you play Horizon Forbidden West and you meet the robot hippos.
oh my god, what?
Oh, Ammit.
Oh my god. Okay,
There are
when?
robot hippos
What?
in Horizon
Oh
Forbidden
my
West.
god, I'm losing my mind. I'm
What are
losing
they
my
called?
mind.
Oh, they're called Widemores. Widemores. And they are very grumpy, as you might imagine. They are very grumpy. Anyway.
I can't wait. That's the best news I had all week.
Yeah, we're going to do a Horizon episode at some point as one of our off-topic ones, so I'm sure we'll cover Widemores. Anyway, yeah. Sorry, back to you.
No, I was done with it. Just keep the women, give us, canon romances. I mean, keep the healers. We have a good tradition of healers, good-looking healers going on. I mean, might as well. Not just in Valhalla, I have to say. Like Praxila in Origins was also a very competent doctor. So keep those. I think it's good. It's female empowering, especially if you're doing Hexe during the witch trials, right? Like let's keep positive female figures.
Let's hope. There is still plenty of time for editorial chiefs to stick their fingers in. So, yeah. All right. Declan, mate. You want to wrap up?
Yeah, so sadly, that is all we have time for. And I'm kind of gutted because I really think we could have talked more, but we are on a really annoying 2-hour schedule. So, yay, that's another topic for another day.
Yes, that is a Zencaster issue that we used to record the show rather than anything to do with our guests or our time or our calendars or anything.
Zencaster's being evil. So, thank you for Jodie and Ammit for joining us, and it's really good to talk about the Layla Hassan Trilogy because it's the first trilogy since Desmond kicked the bucket that we've actually got a fully fleshed out.
I mean, he's not really gone. He still lights up the room.
He's a light bulb.
And so does Layla.
It's true. He's got company now. Yeah.
2 light bulbs. I'm sorry.
They're very brilliant people, you could say.
Oh, get out of here. Oh, my God.
So, thank you, everyone.
But do you know what, Declan, before you close, we should probably just let Jodie and Ammit say, where
Yes.
people can find them and follow them. And I mean, you should follow Jodie for her epic Elite Dangerous updates,
I'm sure when we get Mirage news, I will be putting down the spaceships. I will be.
Gotcha.
Yeah, just on a bit of a space kick at the moment.
That's a great game. I wasn't invested enough to put the time in because you need to put the time in, don't you? But Elite Dangerous, it created that real feeling of exploration. It was just fantastic.
But yeah, I'm at series_07 on Twitter. That's series with Ceres. Yeah, I'm sure I'll be on some people's recommended follower lists if you follow any of the other people here. Otherwise, I'm on the Assassin's Creed subreddit from time to time doing a moderating there. but under a different username, so probably wouldn't recognize me anyway.
Top
But
secret.
yeah.
Thank you.
But yeah,
Thank you,
that's
Jodie.
me. Or in the Sisterhood Discord. I'm like always reading that.
Absolutely.
Always
What
doing
about
that.
you, Dr. Ammit? Where can we find you being a doctor?
I don't want to be found. No. I am not as much as I used to be on Twitter at Ammit AMMIT_, like the Egyptian demon. And I also stream weekly with Save Ancient Studies Alliance, and we are on Twitch at Save Ancient Studies. We are currently playing Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and my co-streamer Alex is really, really close to just blowing everything up. And next month we will play an ancient Roman version of Pokemon. And then we will play the Total War series. So if you have nothing to do on Friday afternoons at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so Boston time, come hang with us. We're a pretty chill stream. Lots of hippo slandering, as it should be, and a lot of simping. And yeah, we dress up Lara Croft as Shania Twain pretty often, more often than we care to admit.
Nice. And Total War series, as in you're starting from Shogun Total War?
No, we are doing ancient world stuff. So we are doing Troy.
Gotcha.
We are doing Rome 1, Rome 2, and Attila. Because it's going to be a journey.
Do you know Rome? I know we've got like 3 minutes before our recording time is out. Rome Total War, that dates back to 2003 or 4. I have hundreds and hundreds
Same.
hundreds of hours.
Same.
Oh, I love that game.
Oh my god! Join us.
Well, it's unfortunate that that'll be Friday evening for me. I may watch. Yes. Anyway, thank you, Ammit. Appreciate that. Declan, back to you.
Yes, thank you. And as always, if you want to email us your thoughts, you can do at assassinscreedletstalk@gmail.com. And you can follow me and James on Twitter at ACLetsTalk and at James to the Quid. Thank you again for everyone joining, and we'll see you all next week.
Thanks, everyone. Oh, and we have a Discord. There'll be a link in the description. Probably best if you want to chat to us to join the Discord, because Twitter is going downhill. Anyway, yes, Discord. Thank you for listening. This is a terrible ending to the podcast, but whatever. I should probably click stop. Yeah, I'm going to click stop now.